Hey, everybody, we've made it to the holiday season, and as always, we're trying to bring you some of the coolest gift ideas for you and your family, things that are actually going to get you better while having fun, and things you can use anytime, anywhere. And as you know, our title sponsor, NHL Sensorina, has just released NHL Sensorina 26, the new season. It's here, and it's the most complete off-ice training system ever built. Again, players and goalies can train with real NHL players now inside the app. Jumping into 3v3 full season games, you can build your own team rosters, collect player profiles. It's a really fun and realistic VR hockey experience. And remember, we talked about this too. You've seen myself use it and my son. The new Dangle Pro stick handling mode. I'm not going to lie to you. This is something I wish I had as a kid. It's really cool. You use a real stick and a real puck, and your head is up. You can do it in your living room, in your garage, wherever you want to do it. And then for goalies, the all-new Game Flow mode delivers nonstop shots from real shooters from programs like UConn, BU, the U.S. National Development Program, Little Caesars, and they have AI players keeping rebounds in play for 3 full periods of a game. It's amazing. Again, we put some videos out already of us using that. You got to check it out. Again, annual memberships right now are 50% off for the holidays. That's the best deal you're going to get, starting at just $29 a month, and you can save an extra $25 if you use our code OKPH at checkout. Again, that's OKPH at checkout at hockey.sensorina.com/OKPH. Check it out. It's a lot of fun. It's a great tool to train your kids, and I'm not going to lie, you're going to jump into it as well if you're a parent or a coach or someone who loves this game. Now let's get you into something else you love, this episode of Our Kids Play Hockey. Hello, hockey friends and families around the world, and welcome back to another edition of Our Girls Play Hockey. It's Lee Elias with Mike Bonelli and our good friend, our PWHL superstar, Hayley Scamurra. She doesn't like when I brag about her, but I like to brag about her. And today we are talking about hockey life balance. You know, when we brought this topic up, many of you may be thinking the same thing we are. What balance? What are you talking about? There's no balance with hockey. It's just hockey. Life comes after that. There's no balance. But we did want to talk about, specifically in girls' youth hockey, about that balance of what does it mean to be playing hockey, be a young lady, growing up, going through school, going through everything else. And I always say this on these episodes. Just because we're talking about girls' hockey does not mean you should dismiss this episode as, oh, I only have sons, I don't care. This is a great learning opportunity. Coaches, parents, and players across the board. And we have, again, one of the best with us here today to talk about it. So, Hayley, I'm gonna kind of start with you here today. Let's just talk about your own experience growing up. What did a balanced week look like for you during the season with school, training, recovery, life? I mean, was there any balance?
In my youth days, I do not believe I had balance. When I look back on my schedule, like it is mind-boggling to me how I just did all of it. It was crazy. So hockey was super busy, school was super busy. You're at school from like 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. Then you go right to hockey. Then there was just so much travel and it felt like I never really had free time. Like my mom always said, like, why would I cook you guys dinner? Like you're literally not home. Like,
Right.
yeah, I make it and you're like, oh, we're off. So I think I definitely think I could have maybe had more balance growing up. I don't know how, if I'm being honest. I think that's just kind of the way the schedule is.
Right.
And it's kind of hard to work around that, I feel.
What would just
Um,
just on that thought? What would you
yeah.
like to have been more balanced? Like pretend there was a few more hours in the day, right? Like when you
Yeah.
say that, like I would have liked more balance. What does that mean? What do you think you would have liked to include?
More downtime. Like, I think it would have been nice to like just have time that wasn't dedicated to sports or to school. And like I said, it's kind of hard because school does take up a lot of your time just in
Yeah.
general, and there's nothing you can really do about that. And then hockey, you're excited to go to hockey, and I had fun doing all that. But when I look back, like I don't know how much time I really had to do anything besides a sport,
Right.
nor did I really know what to even express interest in outside of a sport. So I think that was maybe my biggest, maybe area of opportunity growing up would have been to find something outside of sports to do that I enjoyed. Because like I think it was great that I did do other sports. I did tennis, I did soccer, but again, it's like active, like so much activity. And so it would have been cool to like, I remember I tried the viola for maybe 2 months when I was in like fourth grade. I just didn't have the time. They're like, you're not practicing. I go, no, I'm not. So like that was also maybe my own interest wasn't quite there, but like maybe to have cultivated like different interests would have been maybe good for me.
I'm wondering as you're saying this, right? If you're one of the young ladies listening to the episode, if the lack of work-life balance led to your success. I mean, it's hard.
It's a
It's a
good
hard
question.
argument to say, well, we all want time off. Like we all want the breaks. We all want to go to school dances and apple picking and do all these other things that all you see. I'm sure your friends are like, you're not going to be doing that. No, I'm in Pittsburgh next weekend, or I'm in Toronto next weekend, or but uh, there's a lot of people out there going to say, yeah, well, look what she did with that. I mean, so there is, I think when you're talking about balance, there's the balance. You drove that balance, don't you think? Like if you you didn't see, like it's just, as I'm hearing you, it's like it wasn't like oh my God, I missed out on so much in life. It was, oh well, it'd be great to have more time off, but
Yeah.
I turned this into this, and that's just not for everybody.
That's very true. It is so hard to say, 'cause like I said, I did try other things. I'm like, I'm just not interested, right? So like maybe it's like overthinking it, but I feel like as I got older, I had to like teach myself to take breaks. And I don't
Mhm.
know if that came from that kind of mindset where it's like you always have to go, you always have to be doing something active. Like it took a while to rewire my brain to be like, rest is okay. It is okay to just sit and be still and like recover and things like that. So maybe just like sprinkling those lessons in a little bit when I was younger would have been good. But like you said, I am where I am today, no doubt, because of what I, did growing up and what I've continued to do, throughout my years. And
Well, I think that's where we falter, right? When you don't feel somebody's nipping at your heels, and you say, "Oh, I could take a little break here," and all of a sudden somebody flies by you, like, "Oh, what happened there?" Like that's my fault. Like I allowed that to happen. So I think I love hearing the competitiveness. Like that's the like you want everybody to enjoy the game, and you want everybody to not want, like as a coach, you're like, well, you want the balance for mental health, but you're like, I don't want you having the balance for my needs. Like my needs are you have no balance. I want you to go, go, go. And I think, but to your point, that's driven by the athlete. Like think about all the girls you grew up playing with that decided to do other things, like and join the chorus and join the plays and did all the like you're like, well, they're not playing professional hockey, but they might be professionals in something else. So their work, their hockey life balance was maybe a different, you know, insert subject here in life balance, right?
that's true. Yeah, I think it's
I mean, you can't be
definitely
everything.
interesting.
You
You
can't have
can't do
everything.
everything. That's very true. That's very true. That's why I kind of was more so equating it with like the rest piece rather than like maybe having to do other things. Like you don't have to do a musical instrument if you don't want to do it, but like maybe reading, maybe like just spending time with family like outdoors and doing something just separate, right? I think I eventually did that when I was in like middle school. Like my mom, I remember we got like a cottage, and in the summer, we took a week off of all sports and just were at the cottage and just doing cottage life.
Yeah.
And I still remember that time. It's one of my favorite times, that I can remember, like reminiscing growing up, right? Like, and it was something completely separated from sports. And that was a nice, separation for me, I think, at the time. And yeah, like you said, I remember missing school dances. I remember, but that was of my own choice, right? Like
Correct.
my parents did not force me to miss a dance, but there were times where I was like, "Oh, I really wanna go to this dance," and then, um, I had hockey instead, but I did choose hockey. So, I do not regret any of those decisions at all because they definitely led me to where I am today, for sure.
So this is where I love to bring this up, and this is always a hard distinction I think for parents is that Haley, you wanted this. You
Mhm.
wanted this life. You wanted to be on Team USA. You wanted to be a pro, a collegiate player. You wanted it. You wanted it. Okay. I'm sure your parents wanted it too. But at the end of the day, and this is the truth, and I'm gonna ask a question about this, is that is the X factor when it comes to this conversation. We cannot create that drive as parents. You can cultivate it for sure, but you can't create it. Doesn't matter how much you want your kid to play pro hockey. If they don't want it, even if they do want it, there's a very low chance of it happening. Okay, but if they don't want it, you can't force it. So I always say with these hockey life balances, work life balances, I think it's a crock in terms of the discussion. Like we're bringing it up as a discussion, but the truth is this: I don't think there is a balance. I think there is a priority balance, And I think we need to change the conversation. I think I've talked about this before of it's not about finding this balance between 15 different things. That doesn't exist. It doesn't make sense. We don't live our normal lives that way. Nature doesn't work that way, but you can prioritize. All right. My family is very important. Hockey is very important. Hopefully school is very important. Right. And then you prioritize and balance based on that. For Hayley Scamurra, hockey had to have a high priority in terms of balance within her day. And you and your parents found a balance with that. But I love that you brought up, I tried the clarinet, wasn't for me. That's okay, right? You tried it. I think just the fact you tried it, reading, relaxing, doing other things. To me, like the dipping the toe in and seeing what you're going to like is part of the balance. But the question I do want to ask you, Hayley, is that knowing that you wanted to make it, your parents, and it sounds like both of them did a great job with this on different sides because your father coached. They must have had to find how do I say this? There's a level to push you that's not too far, but it's also not too soft, right? Let's talk about your dad and your mom, right? How did they specifically know when to press the buttons? Because I am sure there's times when you were a teenager, maybe you didn't want to do it that day, right? And you were told, get up and go outside and shoot, right? How do you find that worked?
I think so. My dad was definitely more of like the pushing of the buttons. Still is. I love him. We've worked through it and everything, but he was definitely really hard on me. But then I had my mom who is super chill and was like the kind of like safety net for me, right? Like someone I could just go to vent and relax and like not talk hockey and things like that. So for me, that was my balance. It was my two
literal
parents.
balance.
Literal balance. And I think I would just sometimes not listen to my dad. I think if he was pushing me when I didn't want to go, like I'm gonna be out. Like I just straight up was like, no, I don't feel like doing that right now. Like, but it was hard at times because then he would, get upset and then I'd have to like kind of navigate that a little bit. But overall, I feel like I did a good job of pushing myself. Like I feel like he never really had to push me that often, honestly. Like it was never really him being like, you have to go to practice today. Like I never dreaded really going to practice, except like a little bit when I was with the boys and I wasn't really comfortable with the boys. Like I knew I wanted to switch to girls. That was maybe the only time that I can think of in my hockey career where I was like, I don't want to go to practice kind of thing. But I don't remember him ever having to like force me to go. Like I think that was always intrinsic in me. And the only thing he was tough on was just my work ethic and whether I was putting in 100% of what I had. And so sometimes he was just a little bit more intense about it than I was. So maybe I wasn't giving the full effort he thought I could give.
I think I just talking about, a different generation too of parent that, you grew up at the tail end of, not really being a lot of social media and a lot of distractions and hours of video games. And I think today's athlete, we're seeing, I just think we're seeing less and less of the self-motivated kid, in my opinion, just watching all these thousands of kids that the pushing is more and Lee talks about this a lot, like the pushing's more guiding than it is pushing. Like, yeah, you could play video games for the next 6 hours, but you're not going to get better at this, or don't expect to get this if you're not going to put this in. But I think because of the world a lot of these kids are growing up in, and they look around their friends, like I'm sure you were around, I think you talked about this too, right? Even about siblings, like you were around active people, like you were around people that were doing things all the time. But if you were around a lot of people that weren't doing anything, if you just sat around and played video games, you tend to, that's where you go, right? And I think that's where we all have to be cognizant of the fact that like my father never had to motivate me ever, because I was so bored. I'm like, I'm going shooting, I'm going skating, I'm going rollerblade, I'm going to get out, I'm going to go find something, I'm going to go climb a tree. I'm doing as much as I can because I'm bored out of my mind. Our kids don't get bored right now. Like it's very hard to get a kid bored.
Well, they get bored after 3 seconds of doing nothing. Like I know what you're.
Yeah, but if they're doing something, it's hard to get them bored.
I'm totally teasing you, Mike.
I mean, but it's just like there's not that time where they're like, oh, I can't wait to go out and shoot because there's nothing else to do. And that's I think that's a real a struggle we're all going to have, as
Well, I'll tell
we
you this,
work with athletes.
Mike, what I have found to be successful, and I guess this is good advice, is building routines, right? So something, and here's one, like I'm going to actually pay my son a compliment. My son's a goalie, but he still skates out every once in a while. After every practice, and I'm going to say he's in net 90% of the time now, he'll go down in the basement and just shoot pucks for 30 minutes every time. And he has built that habit himself. Like now, I might have helped kickstart it by when we got home, like he would ask and we would do it. But he's built that habit for himself. And it's interesting because I think people could say, well, how is him shooting making him a better goaltender? And I'd say, well, you know nothing about goaltending if you're asking that question. But but the point is he created a habit and he does that. And him coming home from hockey triggers that habit, right? So I think that's part of this too, is with your kids is like, look, it's really hard to get a kid off a screen to go do something. So don't even put them in a position where it's like, that's enough of that, go practice. Now you're taking them away from something like to do something else that they like, but that's tough for a kid. So I always say too, and look, everybody's got to parent their kids their own way. But to me, screen time is a reward for things. You don't just get it. And it's definitely very rarely, I'm not going to say never, very rarely a babysitter for me. Like if I have something chaotic going on and I really need them to not be there, I might give them a screen. All right. But we try and limit it to 2 hours a day, max. All right. It's not in the morning and there's things you got to do to get it most days. I think that's how you combat that. And to me, that is a little more traditional parenting. It's like when I was a kid, I didn't get what I wanted unless I did what they told me to do. All right. There was no TV. Right. So I think part of the we'll just say balance. I'm not going to say hockey life balance is helping your kid build those routines. Like, look, let's do a school one. When are they doing their homework? Right. If your kids play youth hockey and there's a 99.9% chance if you're listening to this that they do, okay, when are they doing their homework? Are they doing it after practice? Are they doing it before practice? Are they not doing it? You got to plan this stuff out, right? It's important, right? And parents, we have to be on top of it. And boy, has it never been easier to be on top of assignments than nowadays. I mean, Mike, when you and I were kids, Hayley, you too, we could probably get away with some things when we were younger. Now everything's on. I have an app that tells me everything that's due. But it's about habits and about behaviors. And I think if we attack that, we'll do better.
Yeah, I think Haley, can you talk a little bit about, just how important it is, especially like where the women's game's going now and it's growing and it's all of a sudden there's all these high schools and prep schools and travel teams and all these other maybe the travel teams aren't focused on academic pieces so much or the well-rounded student athlete, but prep schools are for sure, right? And I think, and could you just talk about like how important that is to have that routine growing up so they're prepared when they fall into these categories of, oh, prep school wants me, I'm going to go there my junior year. But if you don't have a really good, firm grasp of time management and that balance, you're really going to struggle at that level, no?
Absolutely. I remember because high school was crazy for me. My dad drove to Canada 3, 4, 5 times a week sometimes, plus doing high school, plus I did soccer for my high school. So I remember I barely had any free time. How I got any of my homework done is beyond me, but it was because of time management. Like I was always really dedicated in school. Like I love school. I loved learning. So that was never really for me like an issue my parents ever had to like tell me to do my homework. Like I did my homework. Like there
Right.
was no questions.
That's your
And
character. Yeah.
yeah, thank you. But yeah, so I think that was massive for me to like learn how to manage that time. And when I got to college, when I tell you I was shocked by how much time I had, it was insane. Like college felt like 10 times easier than high school because I was like, I only have what, 3 classes at
Yeah.
most a day.
Right.
And then I have all this free time to do my homework. And then I get to just walk to the rink. I'm like, this is beautiful. Like, so I think when you really have like a hard time management, it really helps you later on in life when you do have more free time later on, I swear. So that was huge for me. Massive.
Haley, it's funny you bring that up. I feel like I had the same experience. I did okay in high school. I was probably like a B student, but we
Mhm.
were doing a lot. And then I got to college, and it was so easy. I mean,
Yeah.
you're learning about things you want to learn about.
Mhm.
I don't want to say you're free from your parents, but you have all this new responsibility that
Mhm.
I felt like I wanted to take on. And then, yeah, I was walking to the rink, and it's like, and I'm on the ice all the time. It was almost freeing, but the work that you put in to get to
Mhm.
that point is how you got to that point. And I don't want to understate that either. Like, 'cause you played Division I college. You played very, very high level hockey, right? You paid your dues, in lack of a better
Yep.
word.
Yeah, it's funny
Yeah.
if you can get through. It's the boys' game especially. Like if you play like 18, 19U hockey, it is horrendous.
Oh, it's tough.
It is just fighting and all the BS and it's just. But if you can get past it,
Yeah.
all of a sudden you're in like hockey nirvana. Like it's
Right.
easier. It's actually easier to play. It's easier to play. It's to say that you watch these girls games and the women's game, and they're playing like like 6 games in a weekend, tournaments all over the place. It's back to back to back. But once you get past it, it's easier. It becomes more freeing if you can find a way to get to that next highest level.
Yeah.
Now, like you're saying, all of that work and dedication and time management and figuring out how you're going to treat your body and your mind, that all kicks in.
Well, and I have to say this too. And Hayley, look, Hayley plays at the highest level possible, college, pro, Olympian. But the idea is also there's nothing wrong with D3. There's nothing wrong with ACHA schools. There's just nothing wrong with any form of hockey past high school. And I think there was a time we downplayed anything outside D1 NCAA, and I just don't think that that's true anymore. I think the opportunities to play high level hockey past high school, if you play hockey past high school at any university level, that's insane. That's amazing. Congratulations, you've done it. I don't think we downplay that anymore. And then adversely, we had Chris Terry on, former Philadelphia Flyer. I always like to bring this episode up. He didn't play at all when he was 15 years old. He stopped playing hockey for an entire year at 15 due to some things like burnout, wanted to experience other things. Guess what? Dude still made it to a full NHL career. Got to play in a Stanley Cup final. Now, again, is he an outlier? 1,000%. All right. But it just goes to show you there's no path. There's no one path that if you do this, you're going to make it. And when it comes to balance, everyone's got to figure that out. But I implore parents, again, to think of it as priority balance. What do your kids want? I'll say that to parents. Well, they don't know what they want. Yeah, they do. They have a bit of a clue. All right. Hayley, you said something earlier that I look for in kids. You like going to practice. You wanted to be at practice. You wanted to play. That's a telltale sign that they're doing this right. If you are fighting your kid to go to practice every single time, that is a red flag. And it may be them, it might be you. I'm not gonna explore that. It could be a lot of different things. All right, but you shouldn't have to push your kid beyond a certain point. I like what you said, Hayley. And I want to reiterate this because I thought this was a really big point. You said, my father always wanted to get the best out of me of what he knew I could give. That last part of that was everything. All right. Mm-hmm. Because I think a lot of people miss that. Well, I need them to work harder. Well, do you have a bar on how high? Because some people don't. All right. And when I see kids crying and their dads or moms are screaming at them on the ice to go harder, and the kid is going hard, that kid's burning out. That kid's burning out. All right. So that's part of the balance too. We got about 10 minutes left, and I do want to turn the conversation here. Again, I say this on these episodes of Our Girls Play Hockey sometimes. We get to have the maybe uncomfortable conversations here that maybe don't happen too much in the stands or at the rink. Let's just talk about becoming a young man or becoming a young woman. All right. I'm going to preface this like this. We're all going through changes from 12 to 18. Okay. It's different for boys than it is for girls. It's different for everybody as it is for somebody else. I'm asking you as a male coach, maybe what am I not aware of that girls may be going through during puberty as hockey players, right? Keeping it to the topic. Mm-hmm. What should I be aware of? Is there anything that I'm clueless to as a male coach that I should know, the audience should know? Do you see where I'm going with this? Because the truth is I don't know. Right. I'm honestly saying that.
Probably the biggest one is obviously hormonal changes. I think girls going through their periods and things like that. I remember for me in high school, I had terrible period cramps. They were debilitating. I had to lie on my couch with a heating pad on, and I could not move. And I would like to say I'm a tough person and I could play through a lot of things. That was one thing that was hard to play through. And a lot of girls could be going through that. And if they have a male coach, they might not feel super comfortable talking about that with their male coach.
Right.
And so, I don't know how you open that line of communication. I
I
think
don't
that's
either.
obviously up to the
Yeah.
player themselves, and but that can definitely be a huge factor, and just like emotionally, like maybe they're just having a tough day emotionally because of all the hormone changes and things like that. I think we've talked about this a lot. Like, they haven't done that many studies on female athletes in terms of like
Right.
their period and things like that. I think they're just starting to. Like, I've heard rumblings of things like that happening, but there's so many factors that we're not even aware of, I think. And so I think that's just something to obviously keep in mind, and not really something you guys can relate to at
Not at
all.
all. Not at
And
all.
there's not much you can do for that, but just hold space for them if they are having those moments.
Yeah, Haley, I'll tell you this. I'm actually glad you're bringing it up because believe it or not, because I do a lot of research on our topics, that was a top
Mhm.
10 topic to talk about in women's hockey. Right. So I'm glad that you brought it up. And again, you're 100% right. I've never experienced that. Not going to act like I get it in any way. I am always curious about how can I, as a coach, position myself best for my athletes. But I think that you're right. Of like that's based on the trust that an athlete has with their coach. I would never
Mhm.
expect the female athlete to come up to me and say something uncomfortable, right?
Mhm.
But at the same time, I do have to ask the question: Is there something communicatively that can be done that either the coach should do, the players should do, to kind of I don't even know the right word to say here. I guess broach that situation, right? Because I can understand you're in pain, like that. I can
Mhm.
understand, right? And it's
Mhm.
like I don't want to push anybody if they're in pain. If you're like you said, if you're debilitated, I'm not
Mhm.
trying to put anyone beyond comfort, right? In terms of that.
Right.
So how would I even approach that? Or do I just not? Do I just kind of play it as it lies?
To be
These
honest,
questions have
I
never
don't.
been asked before of anybody. Just say, I'm pretty sure
I
no one's ever asked these
really,
before.
I honestly don't even know. I feel like maybe that's on, like, I don't know, like the parents can talk to their kids about it and see like what they're comfortable with, and
Yeah.
maybe they say, "Hey, like we kind of want to talk to you. How would you feel about talking to the coach? Do you want us to talk to the coach on your behalf?" Like, I that's kind of how I see maybe it going forward. If the girl doesn't feel comfortable talking to their coach about it, maybe the parents can kind of do that on their behalf.
Yeah. That's
If
actually
it
not
were to
bad.
be at
I
that
do.
point, right? So, I mean, that's the only thing I can think of, to be honest. I think every person would be different, though, for sure.
Well, look, this speaks to the point that there's been very little discussion or
Hmm.
research done on this. Like when it comes to the male situation and going through this, I know Mike and I, aside from going through it, I mean, we're well trained on what to do when boys go through this, right? As
Yeah.
athletes, like we know what to do. So I think that maybe we'll just leave this part of the discussion with there needs to be more discussion about this. I
Hmm.
actually think what you said is not a bad thing. I mean, look, and I'll tell you from my point of view, and again, I'm not saying this should happen. I'm just saying that if parents or a player, I'll just say that, were to come up to me and say, "Hey, listen, this is what's happening," that's not gonna
Hmm.
bug me. I'm actually gonna be appreciative. That it's like, thank you for telling me, right? I'm also gonna say from the other
Hmm.
side of it, completely understand if no one wants to say anything, right? But this
Yeah.
is part of the game that I think we do need to explore a bit more, and that all coaches need to be educated on this. Like we're saying, it's just males,
Hmm.
but the truth is, like, this is a reality of the situation. How do you balance that? Again, that's a rhetorical question for the hockey gods out there. All right, we got a few minutes left. Thank you again, Hayley, for talking
Hmm.
about that. I do appreciate that. Um, I want to talk about too just being overwhelmed. Right. We anytime we talk about balance, we do have to talk about burnout. Right. Again, you're a pro athlete. There are days you wake up and you don't want to do it. Now, as a pro
Hmm.
athlete, you got to do it tired. You got to do it a little hurt. You got to do it. 16-year-old Hayley was experiencing that too, I'm sure. How did you as a teenager get through that? What were the things that happened to help you there?
My biggest lesson was, I think when I was trying too much, I had an actual burnout. Like, I had pneumonia. I had
Mm,
so couldn't play through that one. But that was my sign that I was doing too much. So that's at the time where I was doing not college, high school soccer, on top of hockey in Canada, on top of I was at a prep school in Buffalo, Nichols. So doing that from 8 to 3 o'clock every day, and I would get home at like midnight, wake up at 6, do it all
wow.
over again. Like,
Yeah.
literally, like I said, I don't know how I did it. Clearly didn't do it that well. I had pneumonia eventually. So
Yes.
I think that was my like physical sign that my body was telling me, hey, you're doing too much. So that's when I stopped doing soccer and I just stuck with hockey and school. And that helped immensely. So that was my physical body telling me, you're overwhelmed, please stop. So
Yeah.
I don't recommend waiting to get to that point.
Right.
But I think there's probably warning signs before that, right? Maybe there's like a kid who keeps getting injured, like a overuse injury, right? That could be a sign that like their body's overwhelmed. They could be, maybe a little more emotional, a little more what's the word I'm looking for? Like reactive,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Short
Those
fuse.
could kind of
Yeah.
be signs. Yeah, short fuse. I think those could kind of be signs that like their system's overwhelmed. They're doing too much. Let's maybe scale it back a little bit. So I think it's like looking at the warning signs and trying to be aware. And then that's where the burnout comes in, where they're sick of playing, sports or hockey or being around those kind of people.
Right.
So just being aware of it before it hits a breaking point, I think is huge.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
I
I think
think
that's
parents can, I'll throw it to 1 second, Mike. I'll just say parents, sometimes we can be too hard on our kids. Say, suck it up. You know what I have to, it's like, no, if the kid's giving you signs consistently, we
Mhm.
play a role in that too. Sorry, Mike, go ahead.
no, exactly. I mean, that's why one of the reasons why it's so important that you're surrounded with educated coaches, because that coach should be, looking for those signs. They have to look for. It's just like when a player gets a concussion, right? The player wants to play. Player's like, I'm
Right.
playing, I'm
Right.
fine, I'm
Right.
good. Just a little dinger in my head, no problem. But the coach's obligation is to
Mhm.
sit that player out. It's the obligation of the coach and the trainer and the people surrounding that athlete, especially as you get higher levels. Hell, how many times is a player getting hurt? You're looking at her in the locker room like, that girl should not be playing. Like, she's hurt. And she's just like,
Mhm.
tape it up. Let's go. Like, you have to protect. That's what's great about thoroughbreds, right? That's what's great about athletes. Like, they're like I have to hold you back from hurting yourself. And that's a really difficult conversation. It's a really
Yeah.
emotional conversation, especially as you get older and it gets really more
Yeah.
cutthroat and competitive, that you think, if I sit out, I'm losing my spot. And
Mhm.
it's really important for coaches and parents and trainers and administrators, to be that voice that says, we love you, we trust you, we
Right.
value you, and we have to make sure we're protecting you.
In closing, as we're running out of time here, guys, I'll tell you this too. Mike, it's funny you said that. I just had the discussion with my son about the difference between being hurt and injured the other day, like a
Right.
genuine discussion about, what injured means and why you don't play through that, but also what being hurt means and how you make a decision to play through that. Right. And sometimes the decision is to not play, but that's part of the mindset of, I would never ask a player to play injured ever, unless they want to. And then we got in like the grandiose of the Stanley Cup Finals or the PWHL Finals. It's like, well, look, when you're playing for a Stanley Cup and that's the pinnacle of your professional career, you may play injured in that situation. Playing for a gold medal, you may choose to play injured, but that's the top tippy top.
Well, if you're getting paid to play,
Right,
like
right,
if you're actually
exactly.
getting, if you're like, I say this all the time to the kids. I'm like, you're not earning a salary from this. Like, you're only injuring yourself for
Right,
life. Like,
right.
there's a big difference between getting paid to play and winning a Stanley Cup or a PWHL championship,
Right.
and then saying, I got to get out there for my men's league game.
No,
There's a big
100%.
difference there.
Well, a lot of men's league players will play injured and hurt themselves, and that's part of
No doubt,
that's
no
part
doubt.
of hockey life balance, right?
There it is.
And then
There it is.
Hayley, just to echo you, when you're over 40, your body will let you know when too much is too much. It's usually all the time. Guys, we are literally out of time. This has been a great episode. For those of you listening out there, again, any comments, thoughts, anything, topics you want us to discuss, email us at team@ourkidsplayhockey.com. Or use the link accompanying this episode in the description. You can text us, put your name, where you're from. Let us know what you're thinking. Let us know if you have things you want us to discuss. But for Mike Bonelli and Hayley Scamurra, I'm Lee Elias. This has been another fun, action-packed edition of Our Girls Play Hockey. Find that balance, my friends. And in the meantime, we'll see you on the next episode. Have a good one, everybody. We hope you enjoyed this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. Make sure to like and subscribe right now if you found value wherever you're listening, whether it's a podcast network, a social media network, or our website, ourkidsplayhockey.com. Also, make sure to check out our children's book, When Hockey Stops, at whenhockeystops.com. It's a book that helps children deal with adversity in the game and in life. We're very proud of it. But thanks so much for listening to this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey, and we'll see you on the next episode.